Welcome to the Joy Ambition podcast. This is episode 1. I'm your host, Emelie Svensson, and I am trying not to laugh. I feel like when I was at school and I was doing something with my best friend, I mean, you just start laughing and then you lose it completely. So, very important. This is the first ever episode of the Joy Ambition podcast. I had a podcast for years and then I burnt it and I completely started everything from scratch. And I was waiting to get started. And then we had a conversation, my guest and I today, and I thought, let's go. Like, this is the perfect time. So if you are hearing me or watching us for the first time, I'm Emelie Svensson. I'm the founder of the Joy Studio, where I help international women make money doing what they love. And I'm going to add a little caveat that you can be an international woman in your own country. Like you can move. I think if you're in London, you can go from north to south. You are now international. Like, you're in a different culture completely. And in France, it would be, do you say pain au chocolat or chocolatine? And you are now international. So that's a little in joke for the Toulouse women. So first guest is Emelie. Emelie is Joy Studio member. She is one of my very first, like I described you as like soul friends. I think I met a lot of people when I moved to Toulouse, and I still remember the first time we met, and I was like, I want to keep this one. She's going to be a very good friend, which was amazing. And you are, in fact, I had a quick look at your website to check because I was going to call you a sustainable fashion designer. But actually, and by the way, your website is sexy. Like I hadn't seen it recently. It's amazing. But actually, we've got seasonless selected looks created from recycled fabrics. And I would say, when I was thinking about how to describe you, you are somebody who is really innovating, disrupting, but doing it with just so much like curiosity and care and warmth and generosity. And you live your values. I think you're somebody who really, really lives their values. So how does that sound as an accurate description of what you're doing?
Yes, it does. And it's always interesting to hear somebody else to present you. I love that. And I think that would move us slowly to this subject of this
Oh,
podcast,
yeah,
this
exactly.
episode, how it
Digital.
feels for a Swedish person to receive such large and huge descriptions of yourself. I feel humbled and I feel a little bit embarrassed almost.
Yeah.
I mean, in a positive sense, absolutely. It's only positivity in that sense. But
I
yeah, we're not used to that. So
I didn't think how that would affect the introduction actually, because
yeah, I think so. And I would probably not use the same way of describing myself or my work like you did.
yeah,
But I agree.
yeah, you're like, yeah, that is
The
me.
most
That is what I
important
do.
is that I agree.
So how would you it's something I love to do with anyone really, especially when I've had a glass of wine, is like shout at them, like, how would you describe yourself if you knew how amazing you were? But if you were describing what you do, to somebody when you're meeting for coffee, like we do our like Pacao, our powerful kick-ass women in business coffee mornings, when you're describing what you're doing and you're not like selling yourself,
Yeah.
how would you describe it?
I mean, I always put, my profession in front. Like
Okay.
I am a designer, so I'm a fashion designer, and this is how I've been living like the last couple of 20 years into it. And I think when I look back, I think it always was there,
Mm.
even when I was a kid, because I found like these old drawings when I moved here. And I had made my own stores. Like I had a signature. And I was selling this pieces. I love drawing clothing, and I hadn't seen it in that way, in that perspective, that it was always there. But during that time when was growing up, I mean, I played with Barbies, and the most fun thing about it was dressing them out, changing clothes like all the time. And I would be like, I would call myself a designer. So it has always been there. I just didn't know it.
So interesting.
And I found all these old drawings, and it was just telling me that this, yeah, it was always there. So it's not something that I just write on my CV, or I have like a fancy diploma from
Yeah.
Paris, Berlin. It's no, it has always been there. It was not always a name for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's
then of course,
interesting.
like ev with every designer, it's like now 20 years after, like, in my career, with all the experience and all the school that I've done, we now start talking about this, that every path is different for each designer. So there is no single path that we all have to take. It's just like the society and the school environment that teaches you that. You have to go into this, and then you do it like this, and it's quite squared for being such a creative profession, but this is how you're being taught. Like, and I never really completely approved.
It, I am so curious about this because I asked Emily to do two personality tests, which, if anyone's listening to this and you haven't done them yet, one is the Enneagram.
Yeah.
Um, and you got the same as me.
I know.
The enthusiasts. I am curious about your wing because I think yours might be the creative, but I don't know. I don't know. So I'll look at that after. So you had the enthusiast with the Enneagram, and I'll talk about that personality test later if we have time. But then the other one I asked you to do was the four tendencies, which is about
Yes.
your motivation. And I always recommend people do this because knowing how we respond to internal and external expectations can give us so much information about why we're finding things difficult or, why we're stuck. And I have to say, I was really surprised that yours was an obliger. You
Yeah.
weren't.
No, not in my profession. I'm not.
No, no, that's
No.
it. In your profession, because you are absolutely, you do things on your terms. You do not conform. You do not oblige.
Yeah.
And I'm so curious, like I would love to hear, because I know a few of the key points along your history. Particularly, I'd love for you to talk about the thing you were telling me about deciding that you wouldn't do sales when you were in an incubator and telling the investor. You don't need to imagine the face. Um, but I feel like your story is you've hit various points where it's been like, this is the traditional way, and you've been like, no, I'm not doing that. Which I
Yeah.
think I want to highlight that because for anyone that's incredible, right? Like from the coaching perspective, psychologically, that is very hard to do. Anytime that we're trying to do something different from what other people expect, our primal system is screaming at us, don't do it, this is dangerous, right? Our fight or flight kicks in, self-sabotage happens. But for you as an obliger, I feel like you have really put in extra energy, extra commitment to doing that. So I'm really curious, like, would you tell us a bit about some of those points?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been thinking about what we were talking about, like the law of Jante, which is like affecting like the
Can you
societal
explain what the law of Jante is? I
um,
just realized I should
in
explain.
Scandinavia. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so I was thinking like, how did this affect me as, growing up as a kid? Like where is it implemented? Because I don't think I got it from my parents, but somewhere it's in the society, you learn it at school. And as a kid, I was very shy. And I would, get all red in my face if I
Yeah,
got a
yeah. I
question
used to
in
blush.
school.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't recognize myself anymore as that shy kid,
Yeah.
you know? But I think this is this description that was made of me.
Yeah.
So I was not really asked, right?
Yes.
So if, and then I've been thinking about how is the school education in, for example, America?
Hmm.
Like, how do they learn how to present themselves, stand up in front of different people, talking ahead of a group of people and present their school projects? They learn it. They
Hmm.
learn it because they get like the access to the tools, but in Sweden we don't.
I'm like,
So,
be proud.
so
Be
we
proud.
have to do it. We're forced to do it, but we're just literally thrown in there.
Mm.
Like, and you get so scared. And then from that kind of group mentality, you have like a role to carry. So I got the role to carry of being the shy person. And I carried it for, I think, until I changed school, basically. So I was not with my friends anymore. And then I decided at 17 years old that I could do, I could be whomever I wanted to. So I changed that part, the description of my personality that I didn't felt it sit right with me.
Yeah.
Um, I become the person that I wanted to be.
Yeah.
That was in,
I love that because I have a similar turning point, but mine was when I was 27, I think. And I was very shy, like very shy. And no, generally people would be like, what? Like now they're like, you were shy. And I'm like, I was really, and I would avoid any situation, like a job interview. I remember like going to one job interview and it was like a group thing, and that like anything in a group was just like, Jesus Christ, like get me out of here. Like I hate this. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. And and I remember it was when I did my English teaching certificate in Thailand. And on the first day, I rocked up and I could see everybody there, and nobody knew me. We were all meeting in Thailand. And I realized like I can just go over right now and I can introduce myself and I can be the confident one. And that's what I'll do. So I went over and I was like, hi everyone, I'm Emma, I'm from the UK. Where are you from? Because at that point, everyone was kind of like nervously like not talking to each other. And then they all saw me as the confident one. And then I was the confident one. And it was so interesting because it was that moment, it was that decision. And then after that, it got easier and easier because that's the role I'd given myself. So then you
yeah,
start to think like, well, if I'm the confident person, yes, I go first. Oh, of course I help out the person that I can see is struggling. Of course I go and I start the conversation. Poor them, like I can help them. And it's like it's a decision. It's really, really interesting. So I love
yeah,
that.
it can really change you.
Yeah.
Not, it's not that you change your personality, but you bring forward what you
Really
have
good.
inside you.
Exactly.
And of course, it's important to also point out that you're not changing a personality, but you're different with every person that you are with,
Yeah.
right? So it's a way of sending out energy and also receiving energy. And I kind of realized that when I left my old school and the role that I had to be, I
Yeah.
couldn't change it because this is the school mentality of the group. Once you are that person, you are that person. Like it's not possible to change it. So
Well, you don't
and
do you? Especially in school, like you're a kid,
yeah,
you know, you just kind of follow, like and you're trying not to get beaten up quite
yeah,
often.
yeah. I mean, the most important is not to be bullied.
I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
mind. I never got beaten up, but I got bullied
yeah,
repeatedly in different contexts. Really, like when I think back at it now, I'm like, yeah, that was terrifying, and that was terrifying. And like there was a lot of just like trying not to be noticed,
yeah,
and then adults saying really unhelpful things like they're doing it because they're jealous of you.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Fuck, like when I hear that now, I'm like, do you realize that? saying that is why so many of us are scared to talk about things on social media because we think that, we'll get bullied again. It's really interesting. It's not a great environment for a lot of people, even if you're
Yeah.
a bully. I think they're
And
probably
it's also all about like wearing like the latest trends. Like you have to have a certain labels. I mean, during my time in first grade school, I mean, it was all about the Reebok and the Reebok shoes and the big pants, the little bit longer ones. Everything was influenced by Beverly Hills at the time
so
and
interesting.
Levi's jeans, for
Yeah,
example. You didn't have those things. I mean, you were labeled, right?
yeah.
And then you had to carry certain roles. So I've met many of those people I went to school with later on, and I'm like, some of them are very much like how they
How they were.
used to be, and I don't feel the same. And I'm like, oh my gosh, okay.
Yeah.
Um, but that's fine too, I guess. But I had the chance to just leave it, and I also had the chance to start my one of my first educations where I knew this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So
Mhm.
yeah. And it was like a school didn't have like a very high, like a high recommendation, and the rumors were bad. It was quite criminal. It was quite, you know, very low acceptance for grades to get in. And I was an average kid in school, like with the first grades there. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, but I think this was the role that I carried out. I was the average, I was shy. And then I shifted school at 17. This is what we do in Sweden. And then you do like it's not the university, it's like the
Like
pre-university.
a yeah, like a prep
It's
year.
like high school, but it's separated basically. So it's 3 years later on.
Okay.
And I did textile and confection, it was called. So it was
Okay.
really about learning how to make pattern drafting and how to do the fitting, how to sew, how to learn the materials. And it was very, very intense. And at the same time, we have to keep up with like the normal, you have to do religion and yeah, exercise and all this kind of standard. We had to keep up. So it was a lot of work. It actually was. And I just understood that I can actually have excellent grades.
Yes, when you're interested and in the
Yeah.
right environment.
And I become like the excellent student, from
Yeah.
average kid, shy kid to an excellent student
Yes.
that got scholarships.
Yes. Oh my God.
So
Amazing.
it
Yeah.
totally changed me, and I totally become um, more open in that way, more confident in myself.
Yeah.
I knew what I wanted. I knew that I had resources. Yeah.
I love that. But it's like I just love the beauty of it because I think I often have like an argument with a friend who and we talk about kind of if if everybody, because as an enthusiast, like Enneagram 7, as a coach, as somebody that always sees the potential in like everything and everywhere, I'm literally, and I think you're the same. It's like you'll look at something and be like, oh, that could, and then this could happen, and then that could happen, and my perspective is that every single human is creative. They all have creativity. And that the only thing stopping them from expressing that is usually a harmful environment or something that has really told them it's not for you. You are
Yes.
not. You are not a creative person. Creativity is for those people. You need to
Yeah.
just like knuckle down, be grateful. Um, and so for me, when I see someone have that experience of just like flourishing, like we
Yeah.
just change your environment and oh look, there's like we have an excellent A grade student. Well, why wasn't she over here? She was the same person because of the system, you know?
Absolutely, because it's holding you back. And also, for example, my sister, who is 4 years younger, So when I shifted school, she was still in the other school, which I left. And she got one of the professors that I had in textiles.
Hmm.
So I was very bad at textiles because we had to do knitting
Not for you.
and like knitting socks,
Oh God.
you know? Like it took me like, I don't know, 6 months to make one pair of sock and the other 6 months to do the other pair of socks. And then she got the same teacher. And she was hearing like, okay, so you have like, I have had your older sister in my class. And and she was like, yes, Emelie Svensson. This is
We
like,
know.
I was very bad in my classes. And she was so surprised that I know was like making this kind of success in upper high school. So yeah, those when I heard that from my little sister, I was just laughing because I mean, yeah, obviously knitting socks is not the same as, making clothes. Like, how can you,
Very
you
creativity.
judge people? Um, Maybe I could have got another type of project which you
Yes.
know, gonna show more interest in.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
mean,
And but I think that's something for like everyone to think about in their own lives because what happened, at least what happened to me, like when I went from working, because I'd done like, I was thinking about it, like I was working in restaurants. I think I had my first job at 13. I actually think it was 12, but I couldn't remember exactly. So I'm going to say 13 just to not like accidentally
yeah.
lie. Um, I had three jobs, I think, by the time I was 16 and had that like throughout school. And I was also applying to Oxford and like trying to do all of the volunteering things and like go to work at the vet and then play three musical instruments and like do all of these things. And and I've already forgotten where I was going with this because I've just I'm like, oh, and it was really horrible. But yes, that's it. So, and then after that, I ended up working in hospitality. So again, like I could work 7 days a week, and it was just like, oh, she's doing really well because everyone, you get congratulated for working so much, even though you're getting very, very burnt out. And then I was teaching English online. So again, like I could fill my schedule from all around the world. When I started to work less, when I got into coaching, because I was thinking like, I will not do what I've done in these other areas as a coach because I
Yeah.
cannot show up to a coaching session being inauthentic. Like I can't show up and be like, yeah, like all these tools and strategies, but I'm not using them and like I'm actually dying in the background. And and the first thing I did, I was like, what do I like doing? Like, what are my hobbies? I said, I don't have hobbies. Like, I don't remember. Like, I don't know what, because when I was working that much, relaxation was a glass of wine or like half a bottle of wine, half a pizza, half a Netflix special, and then fall asleep. Like, that was it. And then tomorrow, work. And then end of it, too tired to do anything else. So I really started to like practice, like asking myself, like, okay, like, what might I enjoy? Do I like drawing? No, I do not like drawing. Do I like ceramics? No, I hate ceramics. Like I'm sure I'm creative, but I'm trying these creative things and I don't like doing them. What do I like? I love writing, you know? And like really, like I think people need to let themselves because sometimes there's this idea that you should know like how to do it. But I think as you've expressed, like you can be a fucking amazing fashion designer. We will put swearing on this podcast. Um,
You're going to do a
I
teet.
know. I think I just have to tick the box on YouTube to be like, it is not for children intentionally. But yeah, you can get like terrible grades at like design and textiles because your project has been create a pair of knitted socks. And then actually, what do you know? Like all the creativity was there. It's just like it was sitting under these heavy socks. So I think that like letting yourself play, letting yourself experiment and go back to it is really, really important. So I love that example. So,
True, very true. No, no. Yeah, very true. When I'm looking back to that part of school, I was like, knitting those socks. One went really small because in the beginning you kind of tend to tense
it's
it.
tense. You're
And the
really
other one went really big, so it was not, yeah, I couldn't use them. Like one was size 36, another one 40.
There is someone
So
out
I
there
kind of
who knows stuff.
understand that I was not the best student, but and I was so bored. It was so
Yeah,
boring. I mean, I came back to knitting when I got older, but this was more like free kind of knitting, and I've always loved to do things with my hands because it kind of relaxes me.
yeah,
So when I'm sewing, it's really relaxing me. It's like meditation, and I'm inside my head, and I can listen to podcasts, and then I have this kind of, yeah,
you get into flow.
in another space kind of, and I
Yeah.
like that kind of drive in it.
So tell us, how did you go from knitting the socks with one sock designed for a mouse and one sock designed for an elephant to to where you are now with these, like, I mean, literally, like, if anyone's listening to this, just go look at her website because it is like, it's just so beautiful, and your clothes are just, I don't know, like the thing that comes up for me is like space mermaid, like there's just
Yeah,
they're just gorgeous, they're just amazing. So how did
thank
you
you.
go from that to doing something that is so actually unique and actually walking your own path? Like, you are actually, a lot of people are like, yeah, I do something different, it's unique, but it's not really. It's like when like a goth saying a goth is unique, and then you see like 200 goths together, and you're like, you're a flock of goths, everybody's got the same uniform. You are actually doing something different and something groundbreaking. How do you get there?
Um, yeah, I mean, it did take some experience, I must say. And I already had some experience before I went to Paris and Berlin
Hmm.
within SMOD. But I always knew that I wanted to have like a really grand diploma kind of, and I always knew that I wanted to be abroad. And I was even looking in Australia, and I think also London was also on the plan. But then I was very drawn to Paris. I visited Paris for the first time when I was 17, and I went with my French class, and I was like taking a decision that when I grow up, I want to be living here. So this is actually what I did. But it did take me a couple of years. Like I had a couple of years from upper high school. I did some classes before, some other schools. And I started selling. I started to do this kind of small scale collections where I printed a lot of things. I printed and I had like this kind of colorful clothes. This was a lot of contrasting colors. So that has always been within me.
Yeah.
And I learned quite early that people used to say, you don't have a very Scandi kind of style, because Scandi, style is very, the gray and the white and the
Stand
beige,
out.
the scales, where I feel that in Nordic countries, where it's cold most of the times, we need colors,
Oh,
right?
nice. Yeah.
But I never kind of accepted the seasonal part of that. Like when I came to Paris, for example, you have to learn how to do mood boards. So mood boards, very simply explained, is that you have this kind of board before you even draw anything
Hmm.
and plan your collection. You have like a board where you put up like inspirational pictures.
Hmm.
But we weren't allowed to take something out of fashion magazines because that's already done, right?
Okay. Oh,
So you
interesting.
have to create a tendency that you believe in. So you have a color range, and you have like, we would go to art fairs, for example,
Hmm.
look at art and then put those kind of into the mood boards, and then have like a story. Who's that? Who's this person for? And what are color ranges and why? And yeah. Um, for the first, I always felt like a bit blocked because it's like a board, a square, right? So, and you have to take this kind of decisions. And I remember one of my first boards, uh, it was for like the autumn, winter, right? So I put a lot of blue, red in contrast with white and black. And my teacher was just like looking at it, and it's like, no. this is not the autumn winter seasonal colors. And I was like, why not?
Why
I
not?
mean, I couldn't understand why not. Who decides this and why is it not? And she was like, no, no, it's not gonna, it's not gonna sell. Like you have to do like this is more for like summer.
So wait, so it's through that
Okay.
filter of will it sell?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
it was
get it.
completely discarded. It was completely, I had to make a new one. And I felt so bored. I mean, I never, nowadays, I never work from a mood board. It
Yeah.
never happens because I do understand the why they teach it. But I think it was too much, it was too long time that we spent on that.
Hmm.
And then we had to kind of rush to like making the collection come together. So we spent all this time making a mood board, which felt like, okay, once you have decided for the square, then you cannot move outside of it.
It
So
sounds like
this becomes very,
filling in the boxes, kind of like a paint by numbers.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So you have chosen your colors, but what if I find like, because it's a story, you build a story, and what if the story continues
I love that.
outside of the board?
As it
What
would.
happens if you get an inspiration like, because we're also talking about trends, right? Like we get impressions on a daily basis, and what you see you will then later on express. So what if you have decided for this kind of range, and then all of a sudden you want to throw in something which is disruptive, which creates like the longer story of the already made story, but then you can't because it's not allowed to
Mm.
do it. Yeah. So I felt like, okay, gosh, I'm just gonna make this kind of boards and then get past it. Like, can we move on?
Always a good
I want
energy
to
to
move
be
on
doing
to the
something in.
story. I want to explore it. I mean, what if, what if that's how you block yourself, like within this
Exactly.
kind of.
It sounds
And I
very
think,
like clipping your wings.
yeah. And I mean, of course, it's when you have a team
Hmm.
and you have to kind of explain what is the ambience, where are we going, where are the colors, where is the styles, then of course this can be essential, but you have to be able to be open-minded, to change it a bit, have an open space for moving it around. And I do think of what I've seen, like the bigger designers, what they do, they have a board where they can and unstick things.
Okay, they
They can
can.
put it and unstick it.
Yeah,
But in school, we're very like, it was glued.
done. Oh,
It was there. It was finished. And
oh.
for me, the story was then already over.
Mm.
Because this is how I work. I mean, I work with stories. I work with impressions, and then once it's blocked, it's kind of I need to pass on and yeah, it's yeah. So I don't work with mood boards. Never again.
Okay, that's really interesting. That's really interesting because yeah, I mean, like meeting you and having conversations with you has just completely turned my idea upside down of what a designer is
Yeah.
anyway. Because I mean, first I didn't really know because I wasn't a designer, and you just tend to fill in the spaces in your head, and you're like, oh, a bit of Devil Wears Prada, a bit of like this like manic genius getting depression in New York, a bit of this, and actually your process sounds to me much more like flow and much more fluid and much more.
But this is also what I've learned to understand with I had to go through like the liner school system. This is how we do it. We have a hierarchy. Like this was very different from Swedish school systems where you could actually have a conversation with your teacher and you are and it not the same level because you're still student and teacher, but you could have a conversation which was acceptable on the same level,
Yes.
which is completely different when you go abroad.
Yes. Yes.
And so that was quite hard for me, but I was like, okay, we would just endure. I was supposed to do 3 years, but I moved out up directly from the first year to the second year. And that's another part of the story, but I ended up in some issues with one teacher, but that's a completely other story. But um, so I did 2 years, 1 year in Paris and 1 year in Berlin. And it was driven in the same kind of way. And when I speak to like fellow designers that have done Swedish schools,
Hmm.
very Swedish, very known schools, they kind of get really s- astonished, like when I tell them how it was.
Yeah,
And that we worked so much that, sometimes, I mean, we couldn't keep together. I mean, if you
I
got
remember
like
about that.
the slightest criticism, you would break down, you would cry because you haven't been sleeping,
Yes.
you know, like working 24/7, and you couldn't take like if the professor didn't like it, you start, you start crying, which is kind of absurd.
It's not because
And
when you're that tired, what I always explain to people is like psychologically in your brain, exhaustion is like
yeah,
drinking alcohol. So if you
yeah,
think about how easily people cry when they have alcohol, when you're tired, it's the same. Like it's literally closing down bits of your brain, which is
yeah,
why it makes no sense to work your students, work your employees to that level, because you're basically bringing a load of drunk young people in and
yeah,
then
yeah, absolutely. You can't
attacking
think
them.
logically. You kind of, yeah, it's
Abusive, I
yeah.
think.
I mean, and at the same time, when I tell people this, when I tell them my story, and when I talk about it with fellow designers from Sweden, and they go like, "Wow, wow, no, it was not like that in my school." And then I go like, "Okay, it was my one of my worst, but also my best decision that I've done and made in my life because it was necessary to learn it." So I do kind of understand why it's driven like this. I don't agree, but I understand it.
Yeah, you can see their ration. You don't think it's coming from a place of cruelty, but it's misguided. Maybe is that
Yeah, somehow it is, and maybe not for the well-being of the student. I mean, it's made in a way that, I mean, I started in the first year and people would basically just sign off because it's so tough.
fair?
And so I kind of understand it, the reason of this, but um, I think maybe some of them that signed off might have been great designers today. It's just like it's not fit for everyone.
Mm.
So, but this is what we are gonna meet when you come out. This
Yeah,
this is the harsh reality of fashion business. This is how it works because it has been working like this for ages. And it's built up on a structure that works like this.
it is, but it's like so. The thing that I thought of, I don't know if I've mentioned this to you before, or maybe not, because I think it's possibly just come into my head. But what you're doing, like the way, like we'll talk a bit about how your business is set up in a moment and how you're working. But I remember reading an article with Helen, no, not Helen. I can't remember her name, but first she founded Monzo, which is an online bank in the UK, well, and probably other places now. I think it's quite big. And then she founded Starling. And she did it when she was like 55 or something.
Hmm.
And she'd been working in finance and in the finance industry her whole life. And very similar climate. I feel like fashion, um, like Michelin star, five-star restaurants, and finance are all very similar in this like insane
Yeah,
level of work.
yeah, yeah.
It's like a badge of pride. It is that thing of like, yeah, yeah, I haven't slept for 3 nights, and everyone's like, yeah, good for you, good for you. And you're like, what is this? And she was, and also like often like hyper masculine because of the history or where the money's coming from. Like, that's just how it's been. And she said that she was in this bank that she was working in, and she suddenly realized like the only reason we're doing this is because people learnt it from people who were here before them. and the people
Yeah,
who were here before them. And she's like, and if I could keep going back, then that's like men in the 1800s. And we haven't changed or updated anything. So she literally founded a new bank and started to disrupt the whole banking industry. And I think that was like the forerunners of Revolut, of N26, you know. So I think you can be small and new, come in, say that you're doing something differently, and absolutely disrupt it. So
yeah,
I guess my question for you is, do you feel that it was important to have that, like do you think that knowledge has helped you with how you're working and disrupting? Or do you think,
absolutely.
okay, cool. Okay, talk about that,
Because it's, as
please.
I'm saying, it's like it was like the worst and my best decision I've ever took. I mean, I learned so much about myself and so much about not yet being out in the industry, but I understood this is what they're teaching me. So
Yeah,
I'm prepared, you know.
I'm up
So
again.
all that kind of no sleeping and crying, I know I have that within me because I built up this kind of trust in myself.
Hmm.
Because if you can continue work like and finish your school and be able to handle that, then you can handle anything when you come out.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I would like challenge that slightly.
Yeah,
Just,
but I mean, I think experience is important. If you see most designers that are doing the rupture today,
yeah,
most designers have like had years of experience being in the confection business, which is meaning like creating a large scale of styles in a very fast-paced of environment.
yeah,
So they come from that, and they take that with them, and then they say, okay, I want to change this.
yes. Yeah, I
So
think
if you want to change the bank world, you have to have the experience how it
to know how it,
usually works
yeah,
to take the keys
yes,
and just open new doors, how it can be reinvented, how it can be changed.
yeah.
And
No, no, that I definitely agree. The reason
yeah,
I wanted to challenge you is just because I always want to just check that anybody is not giving credit to like the harmful system, because I actually think you survived it because of you and because you looked after yourself, because you could have burnt out.
oh,
Like
I was
come
I
back.
was on the verge of it.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine. Like it's
Yeah,
repeatedly, you know, and it's the same for me. Like there was one point when I was in hospitality where I didn't lose my vision, but text was like dancing.
yeah.
And I thought I had a brain tumor because that's what a hypochondriac I was. And when I went to the doctor and the eye doctor, they were like, "You're exhausted, like your eye muscles," because I was studying at the same time as I was working 12 hours. And they were like, it's amazing that you're not dead. Like you, and I got all my vaccinations for Thailand in one day.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, because I didn't have enough time. I had to have them all now. Give me them all now. I'll be fine. And then I did a 12-hour shift. And then I was learning English grammar. So like, you know, so it was crazy. So I definitely know that like pushing yourself. And I think it's credit to you that you were able to not be completely indoctrinated. You were able to keep yourself and keep to your values and keep to what's important to you to then take that knowledge and then start to apply it where it's useful in
Yeah, I mean, it was pieces of a puzzle, I guess. And I moved back home to Malmö in Sweden. I found it very hard to like adapt
yeah.
again to the society, to being abroad for like a couple of years. And again, I was told like I don't have a very Scandi kind of style, so I kind of already always knew that I was supposed to be somewhere else. And my customer is normally not Swedish or Scandinavian, which is fine, which is fine.
Where
Yeah.
are they usually? Like, do you have a profile, or it can be
Um,
any?
it can be a bit scattered, but Australia,
Really? Oh yeah,
Yeah,
actually, I do that.
electronic music
I was just going to say that.
thing. Yeah, which I hadn't thought of, but yes. Um, yeah, they're a little bit
The
all over the
burners.
places. Um, but yeah, so what I work a lot of in my profession is about contrasts. I think this is what I found within myself as well, that you have this kind of um, contrasting sides of yourself, or finding myself being very outgoing from somebody who grew up believing that she was very shy, um, being scared of a lot of things, but doing them anyway. Because I like challenges, which is also the test that told me that.
Yes.
And I think, I mean, I was working 8 years in Denmark, which has kind of, Denmark is also influenced by the Law of Jante, as all Scandinavians,
Wait,
but
just
they have another kind of
um,
culture in the way of speaking, which is very differently from Swedish.
wait, Emily. Just
Yeah,
explain to anyone listening, because I feel like if I explain the law of Yanta, I'll fuck it up. It's from
yeah,
a book.
yeah.
It's
It
from a
was
book,
published 1933.
but now it influences the whole of Scandinavian culture, like the Bible does.
I think I think it's always been there, but
Okay.
the writer, I wrote it down, Axel Sandemose, he was a Norwegian author who grew up in the Danish part Nykøbing in
Okay.
Denmark. So he was kind of somebody that came from the outside, moving to Denmark. He
Okay.
saw something, and so the Jante is the fictional name of that place where he grew up. And I guess he saw that kind of, it's about equality, so it's as a base,
Yeah.
collective base.
Yeah.
But there is 10 points of basically not standing out and
10.
put yourself forward other people. And he just wrote them down as 10 points. Yeah, there's 10 laws in Jante law. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
10 ways to not stand out.
Yeah. And not put yourself in front of others, not speaking up in front of others. It's kind of the general, yeah. I don't remember all 10 of them, but you can read about them. And I think we say this was published 1933. At the same time, because Sweden has had Swedish Social Democratic Party as the biggest and longest political party that has been in power. So they were in power from 1932 to 1976.
Flipping heck.
And at the same time, we had something called Folkhemmet, which is like the home of the people,
Okay.
which is also on the base of collectivity.
That sound like it's
Like have a
leaning
good
towards
health care, having a sense of everybody helps out. We
okay.
all pay our taxes so everyone can benefit.
I like all those things.
Yeah. So when I saw that they are all actually corresponding in time, it gives me a direction to also understand where it comes from. So
Okay.
it's not only the law of Jante, it comes from points here and points
Collectivism.
there and in the society in general, I would say.
Yeah. And because I love the like non-hierarchical thing as well.
Yeah,
Like when I read the culture map, I thought if I have to work for a company, I'd rather do it in Sweden or
yeah.
one of the Scandinavian countries.
I mean, one good example is IKEA
Mhm.
and the founder, Ingvar Kamprad. I mean, he was a billionaire,
Yeah.
but he was driving his old Volvo and living in the same house in Småland. But he was a billionaire. But he, like when IKEA had like a lot of making a lot of money, he would share it, like the shares, the
I
outcome
love
of the
that.
shares. So he would also like divide it for the employees. He would create a very healthcare social system for the employees so they could, go on uh, father's leave, or you could have all these kind of benefits. And
Yeah.
also, like, my husband is working for IKEA, so they have a lot of benefits who is implemented in IKEA here in
Yes.
Toulouse in France, which other workplaces in France doesn't have, but
Yeah. Because
IKEA
of
have.
IKEA benefit. Yeah, and I love that
that.
as well because, like, literally, I was coaching someone this week that was really struggling with charging money. Like, people are offering, they're asking her for lots of advice, they're asking her for her expertise, and she was really struggling with like increasing her prices and feeling guilty about it. And I think it's such an interesting one because I was explaining that, okay, those causes that are distressing you, she's in a country where the income is very, very low. She's seeing a lot of problems, a lot of challenges, and she's trying to do things on a small scale. So you can do these things, like you can give money to people that don't have a home. You can support family members or whatever. Like you can do things on a small level as an individual, but as a company, if you bring those values and structures in, you can do something very big. And I think that's where like we really need to have these conversations about money and what our relationship with it is, and this is where like I want to get to talking about you deciding not to do sales and
Yeah,
where that came
absolutely.
from. Yeah, because
I
strategically,
mean,
the first time I heard it, I was like, brilliant, so clever, like from a marketing perspective, so clever. And then when you told me where that came from, I was like, bloody hell. You want to
yeah,
explain why you
yeah,
just
I can. Yeah, a couple of years ago, I was taking part in this incubator program. So you have these kind of workshops where you talk about like how you should put your prices, who are your clients, like how do the marketing, how do you value your company, and how do you sell yourself. So one part of was about the prices, and so we had a really good teacher in that. He was very enthusiastic and very like, a guy in suit, a bit older than the rest of us. But yeah, a very enthusiastic one. And I said, well, my strategy is never to have any sales. And he was like, what? And I
like,
was like, yeah, I don't believe in sales. And he's like, well, you're making clothes. Like, you have to do sales. And I said, like, no, I don't. Why should I? I mean, because sales is actually driven by seasonal clothing.
yeah,
And, like making seasonal clothing, it used to be, I mean, back in the 50s, 60s, it used to be twice a year. Now we have 10 or maybe
that
more,
is
depending on
insane.
like level or if it's like
Yeah.
fast fashion or, yeah, you have
But
different
even
kind of,
like some, sustainable brand like B Corps, like I don't want to name any names, but there's one that I used to I'm not going to do that because I don't want to get in trouble, but also, maybe something's changed. But
yeah.
there's one brand that I can think of that's supposed to be like a sustainable, it's a B corporation. And their whole thing used to be that they would drop a seasonal collection. You would get on the waiting list. When it was gone, it was gone. Now they're dropping like every few weeks, and the clothes are on influencers beforehand. And it's like that
Mm.
as I recall, there are 4 seasons, and for clothes, in the UK, we've got one season. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's
And
changing a bit. you know,
yeah, and I mean, it's for, I mean, when we come back to the basics of this, it's all about the commercial aspect of it.
yes,
We want to sell more, so then we create more seasonals.
more seasons exactly because now you need your
Yeah.
autumn clothes. But
Yeah,
like, you mean the same
and
my winter clothes but without tights, or
yeah,
my winter clothes without a coat? Like it's
yeah.
just,
So
it,
basically, if you move from that, and also if we're thinking about like the environmental that it's changing now, it means that it's going to change. It's going not going to, we can't deliver like the autumn clothes when we're supposed to deliver them because it might not start then
it.
because we're going to get hotter summers, so it's going to be longer.
Yeah,
And we're going to have sudden rains. We have already seen it out
yeah.
of Europe, and it's been really, really hot. It's been a lot of fires. We have to
So
be
you need to be
prepared for
fire
that.
ready, flood ready.
Yeah. So basically, what I'm more talking about is the seasonless clothing that are in between, so the between seas, you can call it.
Yeah,
Where you don't cut one season up from the other one, you put layers or you take layers off.
I love that.
And as I said also in the incubator, I said, I want to do swimsuits like all year round. And I again I got the same look and I was like, well, fashion is not only depending on Europe.
Precisely. Because
So what if I mean, I can sell bikinis and swimsuits to Australia at the same time as I sell jackets to London.
but hang on,
I mean,
I want to go back to the sale thing because when you
yeah,
explained to me, talk about the impact on stock of sale.
yeah, the impact of stock because I've been working in retail. That's how I learned to sell, basically, to
Yes.
talk with clients, and now I use it on my own brand. So I can move from the
Around. Yeah.
personal aspect of it and move it and just talk about my brand as something
Yes.
that is not separated because it's never, but
But it's its
I can
own
talk about
entity.
my products.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I love that. I'm experiencing that now. I've just had branding done for the first time. I've had a few photos with Moana and then like my branding for the website. And suddenly I'm like, oh my God, it's so much easier because it's
yeah,
not like I'm selling me. Like I'm like, look, it's very interesting. It really shifts
yeah,
things having a brand.
it
Yeah,
does. And then that's connected to like setting your prices, right?
yes. Yes, yes.
Because
And you
then you can be
protect
able to charge.
yeah, yeah. And I'm also like, I've got to protect the brand. Like, I'm not going to undercut her. Like, I'm proud of her. She's amazing, you know.
Yeah,
But you're in retail and you just
yeah.
covered the
I
impact.
mean, if I'm gonna take one situation, for example, to describe this, and was in a clothing shop in the airport,
Yeah, this blew my mind,
and
sadly.
we were doing this twice a year that you have to actually scan everything and to what you do is you're comparing the figures from what you sold from you have a certain percentage of what is stolen or lost
Hmm.
in the systems. I think sometimes it's like 30%, sometimes it's 40, it can depend. Yeah, yeah. And then you compare those two twice a year, and it should nearly be the same. Nearly. Because otherwise there is something missing, like a big miss, and then it's like a lot of money
It's like one little
flowing.
school
No one
kid
know where they
wearing all
go.
the clothes. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember the first time I did it, I was working in this retail store for a couple of years. And the first time, I mean, when you go to the basement, this is where the where they
Great.
store everything, right? And it's underneath everything. So you have to go down with an elevator, the same elevator as to take to the restaurant. So it's smelling all of the food. And you go down there, there is no windows. It's under level everything, like airport. There's no air, nothing. We were sitting there, 5 or 6 people at the time, to scan everything with these little machines that says beep, 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 when you scan it. And then you have your boss in the store and she compares. She kind of printed out on papers, and then she compared the figures, like how much have we sold of this style, how much should we have in stock, and so on. And so we had these huge boxes in the corner, and once we started with those, I just figured out, oh my gosh, this is all the unsold items from the previous seasons of sales. You could see it because there was also the pricing was on it. So when you sell something for 80%, you cannot sell it anymore any cheaper because
Yeah.
I think it's also not according to the law to do that. So you can 80% as most. Otherwise, it's like you have to give it away, and you can't be a store who gives things away. So yeah, and you could see it in the styles. I could see it in the colors that this was completely like previous seasons, like years back in time. And I was like asking my boss, like, but why do we have all this here? Why is it not sold? Why is it here? Because this is just like a huge quantity of styles not going anywhere,
Yeah, it's just that.
not be living their life like they
And
should.
yeah, and as you said to me, we're paying staff to
Yeah.
count it. We're paying for the space to store it. If we come back to climate and the cost of everything that we're doing, energy is being spent on this
Yeah.
space and on this, and
Yeah,
also
it's resources. Then you have a resource of like the materials in
yeah,
the clothing
yeah,
that is
yeah,
not being worn, is not being in use. You
yeah,
have the old styles, it's out of date. You cannot fool clients because they know your brand. They know that this is out of date. They will not buy it in, 80%. Like they will not buy it because it's like you just can't feel it kind of. It's like digging out, like
yes.
really, it's like finding a dinosaur.
Yeah, yeah, that's what yeah, I felt it was all
Yeah.
sort of like nuclear bunker slash dinosaurs. And I guess ultimately it will go to a landfill at some point.
Well, yeah. And the issue there was that because they have a lot of stores all over the country, it was just mostly that they were not ready to handle it. They didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
So they kind of pretend that it didn't
Yes,
exist.
exactly.
The thing was that, when we have like this, we had to make this during a day, like 24 hours. So there would be new people coming, switching the morning people off, like the morning staff off. So imagine the cost for this.
It's
To
incredible.
sit down there, you have like no fresh air coming in, like dit, 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 and then something goes wrong and you can't scan it, so you have to kind of type it in like this from the keyboard. You have to take it upstairs to the boss, and you don't recognize the style. There is no tag, there is nothing, It's tricky.
Wait,
And this is the cost of resources that just are spent
yeah,
because you don't want to take care of the issue from the beginning. So that's why I'm saying, like, if you talk about the fashion industry like we know it, it's very linear. It's very how you start here and you move from there to here. This is the end. So what happens in the end is that you make this kind of huge productions to earn as much as possible. But we don't want to think about all the unsold clothing that people don't buy,
yeah,
or the ones that comes back that they are not happy with.
yeah.
Where do they end up?
Landfill.
So you have outlets
Yeah,
as one part of the solution. From the outlet, it moves to trash. Nowadays, you can't.
yeah. But
I
I
mean,
love what
it's
you said as
stupid.
well when you were talking about, because again, I just want anyone who's thinking about pricing and how they price themselves to think about this. Because you were talking about like how customers would pick up the same coat when it's full price and it's in the shop,
Yeah,
carefully, lovingly, touching it with reverence, and then it's exactly the same coat, but it's in an outlet and it's 80% cheaper and it's just getting thrown around. And
yeah,
I know
just
because I've
doesn't
been
have the same value anymore.
exactly, exactly. So I think that's where the pricing is really important as
And
well.
also, like my value, I mean, my work value, because I could be standing just beside a client who would do this and I would fold.
Yeah,
So it's also part of not evaluating my work in
yes,
that sense. Like,
absolutely.
I'm doing this, I'm making, so you can find the size, but then they go like this because the same the same style doesn't have any value anymore. So and fashion is it's very sensitive because you have the colors of seasons, you have like if one season is yellow, then the next season it's not. So you have this kind of, it's very sensitive to work with. And that's why I'm saying that making these large scale productions, this is what's going to happen. So you have to have a solution before the problem is there.
Yeah, yeah. It's like it's the closed loop, right?
Yeah,
It's it's getting a closed loop mentality, um,
yeah.
and just
So that
bringing.
made me think like how can you do it differently? What if I create a company who's not driven by sales? What will happen? Well, what will happen is that I've heard heard people presenting me as, yeah, she has this great brand, but she's quite expensive.
Yeah,
Quite expensive. Yeah, I can live with that.
for me, it's perfect. Like I see that as, what if it's your job to be proud of being expensive?
Yeah.
You know,
Because then you know that okay, the client is not going to buy it today, but they're
yeah.
going to come back when they have money.
Hmm.
So what happens when you drive clients by sale, because personally it happens to me as well. I can be driven by sales. I can be driven by discounts, not in clothes, but usually I've been
Have
looking
after.
out for a product or something, or I don't know, or a flight, for example. And
Yeah.
if it goes cheaper, I get happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of this mechanism. But that's one thing. It's
Yeah,
one thing if you already decided that I want to have like a cheap flight to Rome, and then you find a flight that is cheap to Rome. But if that how that's driven the client is like if they're gonna buy something just because it's not expensive,
yeah,
then you have a whole new issue. They might not even want to try it because that happened in the airport.
yeah, I remember you saying that.
And
Just
then they come back with it, and you have to handle it.
yeah,
You have to handle the return, and then it's already been on sale. So you can't put it back on the shelves anymore because it's out,
yeah,
already out. And you have to reflect on that and how I don't want my clients to return my things.
exactly. You're
I
just.
want them to
I think
keep them. I want them to buy it because they have been thinking about it for a long time, and they buy it when they have the money for it.
yes,
And they take like a decision which is for like staying in their closet for being used several times.
over a lifetime, and I guess
Yeah,
beyond a lifetime. You're designing. It's like it's going to be their kids that have it, or
yeah,
it's something that is not designed to go in the landfill ever.
yeah,
Um, I think that's it's very rare, and it's very very important. Okay, I'm going to ask you one last question because I just looked at the time and I was like, oh no, I did my
yeah.
thing. I'm so, but I never.
I know.
It's fine. Um, how how have you like? I think you touched on it, like navigating this cultural background of Law of Jante, of like don't sell yourself, like don't stand out. One thing you were saying is like thinking of the brand as kind of its own thing.
Yeah.
Another, I think you talked about like thinking of yourself as having a profession. What are some like other ways that you're able to like you have to be able to stand out?
Yeah, I had to.
Yeah.
I do.
How do
I
you
do. And I
stand
don't, of
out?
course, I can also be in these social environments where I don't feel like it.
Yeah. But how do you
And
like do you have any tricks for how you're able to
I
create
usually put, my
the power shot?
saleswoman in.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've been doing that for a couple of years, and it just really taught me how to like when you feel like I'm at ease with things and you're like, oh, I don't know, and these people here, and I don't feel, this mingle events, and I don't know anyone. Oh my gosh, I don't know anyone. What should I do? Like, who are these people? And I usually just put my saleswoman person in, and
You give
I
the
just
mic.
walk out as that person,
Oh,
and
happy.
I use what I've been taught, that I can sell anything with finding the interest of that person. So
Yeah.
it all depends on the dynamic, the energy, and the subjects that comes up. And then you can change it, you can vary it. And you don't need to like have this kind of I'm gonna sell, like, sell myself, but more like I'm gonna show them my gallery.
I love that. Yeah. I love that. And what I love about it as well is how you're actually looking for what they're interested in. That's like something I'll do as well with coaching is I'm like, it literally doesn't matter if this person becomes a client or not. What's important is that they have the chance to be heard. I can hear what it is that they need. And if I have
Yeah,
what they need, they know how to get it. But there are so many people, and I'm talking to people all of the time, and then it becomes much more fun, and you get to just kind of talk to different people and just expand it rather than I have this thing and I have to sell it, which can feel it just and it doesn't work. Like I think it never works. So
I have
yeah.
to let my husband in.
No, no worries.
I actually closed the door with the keys
Oh,
inside.
really? You locked him out.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, so we have your salesperson persona. And do you ever experience like, because something that I notice I need, like after we finish this podcast, for example, I'll probably either like have a little siesta or I'll have some digital free time because I notice that like I'm an extrovert. I love meeting people. I love having conversations, and there's an energy cost. And I kind
Yeah.
of need to have space to come back to myself afterwards. Or like Vera will tell you, I get too excited and suddenly I'll be like, let's do this new business. And like I'll
Yeah,
have
yeah, yeah.
and then half an hour later I'm like, what the fuck? Like calm down. So I have to
Oh
like
yeah, I know. I know.
self.
Like when I'm working towards a deadline, I can find myself over creative. So I have to kind of direct my thoughts into like,
Yes,
no, now we're doing this collection. And I'm
yes,
like, yeah, but and I'm like, no. And I'm like, yeah, I have this fabric. Let's throw it in, like make this important. I'm like, no, it actually doesn't really go with what I'm creating right now. But
yeah,
yeah. What I usually do when that happens when I'm over creative and over having too much thoughts at the same time, because yes, it does happen. I
yeah.
usually put it down in a notebook.
Okay.
So I make designs and put some notes on it, my thoughts on it, if I have a name for the collection or for the
Mhm.
style, what it's about. And I can kind of leave it
Okay. Parked.
and come back to what I'm actually doing because this is also important to keep it together because otherwise it will be like scattered pieces
Yeah.
and you end up I don't know why I did this like,
I used to.
doesn't fit.
Exactly. Yeah. So I actually I had a notebook ban for about a year. I wasn't allowed to buy any notebooks because I would like manically fill them. And
Yeah,
and then I was like, oh, but I have to do some stuff with all the ideas. And then what I just realized that I made peace with is there are some of us, I think it's often the enthusiasts, the Enneagram sevens, we will have 20,000 ideas a day. We don't need to worry about that. They're not gonna, there has never been a point where there were no ideas. Like that is just, for other people, yes, they really struggle to create ideas, but probably they're very good at like taking an idea and finishing it, or working with other people.
probably.
So for sure, like, and I think that's why it's so important we have like our communities and we all our strengths get to work together. So I stopped buying the notebooks and I just used to say to myself, there's always more. If it's that important, it'll come back and just like create that space because the notebooks themselves were giving me anxiety because I could see
Yeah.
more. But I think it's different because I think your ideas and notebooks, they become physical things, you know.
Well, they come in shapes, they come in colors, they come in sometimes words that I use.
Oh,
And to be able to keep the focus, I need to put them down somewhere.
yeah.
If I can't realize them, I need to put them down. And it's a good way of coming back to it and see, was this a really good idea or not?
Yes.
I
Yes.
mean, I have also several notebooks of things that not yet done. But I think of myself that this is the huge difference from doing small brand, you are innovator, entrepreneur, and you are forward thinking
Hmm.
than to people, like I, it's very often I hear like, are you not scared? Like, are you not scared to have your ideas stolen? I'm like, yes, of course, it will like really annoy me, of course, if Shane or somebody takes one of my ideas and just like make millions of it. Of course, it will annoys me because it will look maybe the same, but it will have another type of quality. So of course, it will annoy me. But I know that I have all of these notebooks. I have
Exactly.
plenty of ideas because I'm setting the trends. I'm not a trend follower. So this is important. This is the huge difference.
I love that.
So I am very aware that I will come up with new things. We don't have the same kind of mind. So this is my security.
Yeah, my brain. And that I actually think is the perfect point to finish on because what, I love that. Whenever I hear podcasts, I'm like, how do they know? How do they know it's the perfect point? And like, yeah, you can feel it.
Yeah.
Because I think for me, it's the question that I always ask myself when I'm coaching myself and when I'm coaching my clients, my community is what is your greatest asset? And for all of us, it's going to be our brain.
Yeah,
It'll be a different element to it. It might be your creativity. It might be your ability to stay with a project to the finishing line. It might be how you support others and you bring the best out of them. But identifying what that is, it will be some part of your brain. And how do you protect it? you know, and that is where like the conversation we were having last week, it comes full circle of how are you resting? How are you looking after yourself? Because okay, Sheen is 24 hours, this big like monster stealing people's ideas, but I am a trendsetter. Like I just love the confidence you said that. Like I'm setting the trends. Therefore, I look after my brain. I rest. I prioritize that creativity and protecting it. And I think that's something if we can't identify that about ourselves, then what we want to do is that's our next job is rest, take some space, create safety so that you can say that out loud and say, this is my this is my brain, like this is my genius, this is what I do. And then you can start to protect it because if you're hiding it and you're like, oh well, I'm nobody special. Okay,
absolutely.
fine.
Yeah.
Don't sleep. Don't look after yourself. Apparently, we don't need you. Whereas when you can say, no, no, like I'm the person, maybe me, I'm the person that slows everybody down. I'm the one that's comfortable to say, maybe this isn't the best idea. Protect that. You are so
I've had
valuable.
many ideas that were not good.
Me
But
too,
I come
man.
back to them and then it's like,
Yeah.
or I reinvent them again. There was something there, but not completely the way I wanted it, or they grow with you. That can also happen. So
When I,
basically, like diaries, but they are
yeah,
more illustrated diaries.
yeah, I love that because I think also it brings back to what you were saying at the start of like you were always a designer, and when
Yeah,
I come back to and I look at old journals, I have always wanted the same things, always. And sometimes I've hidden them because I didn't think I could have them, or I didn't think I could create them. But when you look at them, you're like, oh shit, yeah, it's the same patterns,
it
again
was always
and again,
there.
always there. Yeah. So, which means siesta time to
Yeah.
to like wait, where can people find you? Where do you want them to find you?
Oh, go and find me on Instagram or my website.
Your
My
web
new fancy website,
Yeah, your website is wonderful.
emeliebysvensson.com.
Yeah, wait, I'm gonna spell out so it's MLIBYSVENSSON.com. And
Yes.
then on Instagram, I'm also going to spell it out because I think people, Emelie, your Instagram link doesn't work on your website. It's going to Wix. There's always one button that doesn't work on things, isn't there? Always. Okay. You need to get your
Oh,
web
wait.
on that one. So Instagram, me. I thought you were called Mlibi for the first few weeks because I had you as Mlibi on my WhatsApp. And then I was like, oh, Mli by Spencer, Emily. Okay, so on Instagram, MLIBYSVENSSON. That's it. You got the whole thing.
Yeah,
Easy.
with
Perfect.
me. Say hi. Write me an email.
Yeah. Oh my God. Right. I feel like you said like send a letter by post.
Almost.
But they're lovely, aren't they? I get some letters still from like students in other countries. Okay, beautiful woman. I will have my siesta and then I'll get this podcast up. I think it's going to be on
Have a good
Substack.
nap.
I will
Yeah.
have a good nap with my dog. That's the best one. And we will catch you soon. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much for today.